Okay, Alhamdulillah, we are live. Okay, Assalamualaikum everyone. Alhamdulillah, today we will kick off our engineering series 2020, a collaboration between Jazari Engineers Network, JEN, Tertiary Career Conference, TCC, and also Association of Muslim Professional, EMP. And Alhamdulillah, we are honored to have our first engineer, Brother Dzafir, okay, to kickstart our Young Engineer series, or what we call Engineer Hope. Okay, a brief intro about Dzafir. After his secondary education in Victoria School, he went to Singapore Poly to study mechanical engineering. He was part of the pioneer batch of SP engineering scholars. After serving his national service, he took up mechanical engine at NTU, where he entered year 2 directly. He was part of the Dean's List for year 3 and year 4. He also graduated with the highest distinction, mashallah. He then joined Schlumberger. Did I pronounce correctly? Schlumberger.
It's fine.
Okay. He was sent to Abu Dhabi for 2 months for a course, and also sent to Colombia to work as a field engineer for around 1.5 years. So now he's back in Singapore working as a mechanical engineer at Schlumberger. Okay, so maybe Dzafir, for a start, can you share a little bit more about your overseas stint and how you ended up getting the job at Schlumberger?
Okay, so actually, I'll start off with how I actually ended up with the job. It actually started off with a friend of mine. He was a field engineer as well. He was like 1 year my senior. So he secured a job with Schlumberger as well, and then he was sent to Ecuador. So he introduced me to the job, and then he used to talk to me about it a lot. So when the time came for me to apply for a job with Schlumberger, I applied for it, and then I went through the interview process, and I actually explicitly told them that I was willing to go to overseas because I was interested in the field engineer role at the point of time.
Okay.
Yeah, so I spoke to HR, and the HR said, okay, so let's see and we'll bring up to higher management. And then the second round of interview, I went through the interview with higher management. Some of them actually were overseas as well, like a similar program as me. So I just be myself. I talk about how my experiences during my international exchange with Korea and China, and just be myself basically. Just spoke truthfully, honestly. No, like there wasn't any nonsense in whatever I said, and whatever that I didn't know, I told them that I didn't know as well. Then I went to Colombia for about 1.5 years as a field engineer, where I had to install electric submersible pumps. So this is actually basically in oil wells when you want to extract the oil out from the well, but then there's oil in the well, but it's not coming out on its own pressure. So you need to take it out artificially. You have to assist it to go out of the well, and in order for you to use it to send it to refineries and etc. So to do this, you have to install a pump or any other form of artificial lift into the well for it to be pumped out to increase the pressure within the wells, and then to get the oil out basically. So my job overseas was basically to install the pumps as according to the procedure, and also at the same time where there were situations where the pumps there were failures in the pumps, so I had to basically pull the well out and then see what kind of failures and then categorize it, as well as do a startups of those kind of wells, and commissioning, and monitoring as well. So this was what I did in Colombia. Basically, there were times where I was actually posted to a surveillance team, so we actually had to monitor. I think at one point in time I was monitoring about 600 wells to see the trends. If there are any problematic wells, for example, if the frequency of the pump of the motor or within the whole pump string it was going too fast, or maybe it was very erratic, then I will know there's some sort of problem. We have to categorize it, and then at the same time inform our clients in the field that there's a problem in the well, and then it's time to take a look at. So that's basically what I did in Colombia.
Yeah, so how do you ended up getting the job in Singapore?
In Singapore, it's a case where the program itself, it's called a tech and field program. Yeah, I mean, anyone can just take a look at it in the Schlumberger website. It's basically a program that aims to send some engineers from our manufacturing centers to the field to have experience in the field, and then come back to their manufacturing center. So in my case, I was hired by Singapore site first. and then they decided to send me to Colombia to get field experience. And then after 1.5 years, they sent me back to Singapore to work with Singapore site. And yeah, so basically that's the whole idea. The main objective is to have more people in the manufacturing center have experience of how things are in the field. Because like, you know, sometimes when we were in university, when we hear from our technicians in other companies or whatever, they will always say that, oh, these engineers, they don't know what's going on the ground, that kind of thing. So this idea of the tech and field is trying to bridge that gap that, hey, engineers who design this equipment for you, they were on the ground and they know what it is like. So they understand. So that's the whole idea. So we know how it is like and how hard it is, and then we can actually design our equipment such that we can I don't know what's the English word, mengatasi to address the problems that are faced in the field, especially equipment problems as well.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, Alhamdulillah, interesting story. Sure. So based on your profile, okay, I see that you apply ECON or quality in your life, in your studies, in your career, and yeah. So how do you achieve that, like achieve excellence in your studies and your career and all that?
I don't think I wouldn't categorize it as excellence, because I think it's just a case where I was able to identify a certain talent of mine, and then I realized that I was good at it. So it's time for me to work hard on it and then be really good at it, because it was a talent of mine. So, I mean, little background, I really discovered something that I was really good in engineering sometime in secondary school. So rather, I was just good in physics and mathematics. So I realized this that, hey, it's time to really consider engineering. And then I realized I was really good in it when I was in when I was in the SP. So it wasn't a case where I was really excellent at it. Just I identified what I was good at and just work hard on it. But I think one of the things I was taught by my parents as well as my teachers is that to have to when seeking knowledge. So for example, when seeking knowledge, to have the utmost humility that the teacher have the assumption that the teacher knows more than you. Dare not to assume that you are and that you want to challenge the teacher. Rather, you want to get knowledge, as much knowledge as, from them as possible. It's like I think in Islamic studies they call it macam getting some barakah daripada pelajaran. I'm sorry, I'm moving into Malay a bit. Basically, that's the whole idea. So assume that they know better and then just work hard at it. So the thing is, what I've always believed in is actually, no matter what case, no matter what I ended up with, no matter what, how do I say it, but I identified it as a talent of mine, but I didn't basically sit on my laurels. I worked really, really hard. I think Muhammad, you also, I think we saw each other for a while, about 1 year in uni, right? I think you saw my friends and we were really working really, really hard. So that's the thing. So the thing is, I think to reach the level where I am today, alhamdulillah, it's a combination of me working hard as well as the dua of my parents as well. So, and also their support and of my loved ones. So these are the things that got me where we are today. Sorry, there's a car that was a horn. Yeah, it's not really. I wouldn't classify as an excellent because it's just just school. It's not it.
Right. Okay, so there's a question which came in. They are asking if there are ladies in the program that you joined under Schlumberger.
Yes.
There it is. Okay.
Yeah. So like for example, my friend, he was in Ecuador. Prior to him, there was another engineer that was there from Singapore. 7 years before he was there. Okay. The engineer was a lady. It was a Chinese lady. Right? So, and then for me, I went to Colombia. So when I went to Colombia, a lot of people asked me about another engineer from Singapore. And I didn't know who this engineer was until I came back to Singapore. And this engineer was actually a lady as well. So the thing is, this program is not limited to whether you're a guy or a girl. It doesn't matter. What matters most is about the fact that whether you are very versatile or you can adapt to change. Because the what I went through was something that I believe most Singaporeans cannot go through. I've always, because the thing is, right, I've always told my friends, the kind of work that I did was a case where I worked literally in the middle of nowhere, where sometimes I had no reception, no internet, no reception. So no way of communicating with people from within Colombia, let alone Singapore, right? And these kind of things. And then I didn't have the luxury of being able to eat properly. There were times when I would only had canned tuna to eat. So for example, because of, I mean, being Muslim, you cannot just anyhow eat, right? So these are the things that these kind of restrictions that really can really menyusahkan orang lah. It's very difficult. So it's not a matter whether you are a girl or a guy or like whatever, right? It's just a matter whether you're adaptable. So yeah.
So at the end of the day, you encourage people to take up overseas programs lah to.
Yeah, I think they should. I sought an advice of an older engineer. He's also part of Gen as well. So this was prior to me applying for the job because I had no idea. I just wanted to a case where just graduated. I don't care. I'm just gonna go ahead and apply for work overseas. This was still young. This company, that's the time to take as much risk as you want, right? That's what they always say. They just graduated. Let's go ahead. So I asked him about the possibility. What was his advice if there was an opportunity for me to work overseas? And then he said, just you have to talk to your parents, but at the end of the day, that's the best time to go, because the amount of risk involved, right, when you are still young, it's a lot lower when you are already settled down. So if you were to read a lot of articles online about successful people, right, and then or advices by experts about when to take a risk about a career risk, they always say to do it as early as possible. So you talk to any older engineers, they always say that once you reach the age of 30 or 30 plus, you want to move to another industry, it's a bit difficult because you're already tied down to a certain industry for about 5 years. And then people always think, hey, this guy's already been 5 years in, for example, oil and gas. Why is he suddenly going into semiconductor industry? Something is he's not going to be an expert. Now, why should I be paying him as though he has 5 years experience? It's that kind of thing. And then at the same time, when the older you get, it's you'll be tied down to a lot of things, getting married, maybe having kids. At the same time, you have other saving money for a house, maybe that kind of thing. So I highly encourage anyone who just graduated, especially, or who are about to graduate, to explore the options overseas, really. Because one of the problems that I saw while I was in university, right, was a lot of engineers. I'm not too sure about other faculties, but engineers in particular, they only saw the opportunities being within Singapore. Singapore is extremely small. Even though our manufacturing is booming, even though we have companies like Micron who are providers of our wafer chips to almost the whole of Asia. Our Singapore is really small. The world is so huge. It's your opportunities, your risky can come from anywhere, really. So just go for it. I mean, if you have nothing that is going to tie you down, why not? Just go for it.
Okay.
Not to be too scared about things, but just have to make a lot of dua.
Okay. All right. Okay, Alhamdulillah. So I think one of the things you mentioned is after 5 years, it's very difficult to change industry. So I think that's one of the reasons you go overseas before even starting your career in Singapore. That's one takeaway that I got, Alhamdulillah. Yeah. Okay, so there's a question which came in regarding COVID-19 period, this uncertain period. So does it affect the oil and gas industry? And then maybe after that we can go into the two areas where you are pursuing currently.
Okay. Okay, about COVID-19, the thing is, for most industries, when they get hit by COVID-19, everything went down, right? But the oil and gas industry, we got hit by two things. The fact that we got hit by COVID-19, and then there was a dispute amongst OPEC, and there was a dispute among some countries about fixing of oil prices. So oil prices also went down, independent of the COVID-19 situation. So we had two problems, the COVID-19 and oil prices. So honestly speaking, the oil and gas industry is highly dictated by how well our oil prices are doing. Our whole oil prices are going up. That means we are going to do well. If it's going down, and then you can expect to see some people to lose jobs. So that's the whole thing. But the thing is, alhamdulillah, looks like things are improving in general. But honestly, I don't know. Like, for example, at the start of this year, we didn't know that COVID-19 was going to be this bad, right? So, but inshallah, things seem to be looking up. Right now, there are a lot of vaccination testing. So I'm guessing, inshallah, there'll be a cure found soon, vaccine found soon, and then things will start picking up. So in general, how oil prices work in general, if the economy picks up, in general, in the whole world economy, our industries will actually require more energy. That will, in which case, will require more oil for them to burn and to produce that kind of energy, right? So that will actually increase the oil prices go up at the same time. So that's how it works in general. That's a rough idea. There's a lot of other factors in it, but with this, yeah, I'm worried. I have to say that I'm worried, but no matter where you are right now, you will be worried for yourself. That's a fact. That's how it is with COVID right now. So, but yeah, inshallah, everything will be fine.
So do you encourage fresh graduates to still apply for oil and gas industry?
They can still apply right now, but I think for most companies, no matter what industry, there's a hiring freeze. So in which case, I think young graduates maybe just apply. Seriously, just apply, because usually what HR does they'll retain your resume if it's impressive enough, and if they already earmark you, they'll really retain it. At least for my company, that's what I know. And secondly is that now most companies, they are not hiring. If one were to look into LinkedIn or maybe JobStreet, there's not many big companies they are really hiring. So what young graduates can do is to maybe upgrade themselves. So the thing is, while we were in uni, sometimes we would think, oh, we don't have time to do a certain thing that we always wanted to do. For example, we want to take up programming, but knowingly engineering is an extremely tiring course if you want to do well in it. It's very time consuming, and then mentally you get really tired. And then being mentally tired to do programming at the same time, it can be very difficult for most people. Now, for young graduates, if they have already graduated and then they don't have a job yet, it's okay. They can pick up programming. Now, right now, there's so much material online where they can learn and just pick it up on their own. And for example, if I've met a few people in uni as well, like they feel that they didn't have time to catch up in their Islamic studies, for example. And then now is the time to do it. I mean, you've been given now you don't have a choice of whether or not you can get a job. You just apply and then you really hope for the best. So there's a time in between that maybe you can, let's say a person can just improve themselves, read more, attend more classes. In which case, most classes now are online, so you can just listen to it online, and that's it. So it's yeah, just take advantage of what they say, like when life gives you lemons, right, you make lemonade. Yeah, so something like that. I mean, in this case, it's we're trying to make the best of the situation. So yeah, make the best of the situation. Apply, just hope for the best.
And that's great. Okay, so what are the two current interests in terms of engineering specializations that you are pursuing currently? So in the near future.
Right now, I mean, I'm thinking more of oil and gas, just in the oil and gas industry. I've always been interested in pumps and how they work. So alhamdulillah, what I'm doing right now is about the design of electric submersible pumps. It's not as complicated. The design I'm doing is actually not as complicated as it can be, but I aim to go into more in depth to do the more complicated type of designs for that certain type of equipment. You see what I'm trying to get to, it?
Yeah. So the complicated designs of ESPs.
So my aim is to go into more of design and maybe simulation of this kind of new equipment.
Is it R&D?
Something like R&D. Yeah, but I mean, something like R&D, but within the company itself. Because at the end of the day, I still want to work with pumps. Then at the same time as well, maybe another thing that sorry?
Clear.
Something else that I might be interested in is in working like some sort of application of the equipment application of the equipment. Because sometimes when we get too stuck, because right now I'm in the manufacturing side of things, right? When you get too stuck in this kind of situation, we might forget, like, how is this equipment going to be applied? So I wish to be able to move into that direction as well. And I mean, I believe there's actually opportunities for this in the future with my company. So inshallah, there will be opportunities. But for now, just make do what I can.
Understand, yeah. Okay, so maybe can you share with us 3 things that you hope to achieve in the future as an engineer or in your life? 3 hopes that you...
Three things that I hope to achieve.
Yeah, that you can...
Okay. I wouldn't say 3 things that I wouldn't say 3 things that I would hope that I want to achieve as an engineer. Because that really limits the things. I mean, life is a lot more than just being an engineer, right?
Okay. Okay.
So,
Yeah, correct. That's correct.
So I have to have a balanced lifestyle. So I guess one of the 3 things, I guess. Right now, I'm actually in the process of making a series of notes that will be in English for people to read, and then to easy to understand about the rules of tajweed, also how to recite the Quran. So that's one of the things my aim for the near future. And I want to be able to release it as soon as possible in proper quality, because I realized that there was a certain gap in that there's not many English books out there that explain tajweed well. There's a lot of videos online, but I mean, there are not really a lot of books, and people tend to sometimes they don't bother listening to videos sometimes. So I thought that maybe I can do it, and inshallah it will be free anyway. So yeah, just sharing what I understand and what my teachers have taught me, and inshallah it'll be okay. Maybe secondly is that maybe within 5 years, be in terms of engineer, I guess, not to never sit on my laurels, just be the best engineer that I can be able to manage projects, no matter how big it is, as well as I can. But some of the projects that my department actually handles can be multi-million-dollar projects, and then sometimes they might not push for younger engineers to handle it, because there's a lot on the line, right? Especially there's a lot on the line, especially when you have to communicate with clients as well. So these kind of things, but I hope to be able to get that trust by showing that I'm capable as an engineer to reach that level. So that's the second thing that I hope to achieve. And maybe third thing, I'm not entirely sure, because it's very hard for me to think about 3 things that I want to achieve. I guess, I don't know. Maybe you can give me some ideas, Muhammad, since you know me for quite well.
Okay. I think since you just got married, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. Like what?
Okay.
But sorry, I just want to because I read up about Schlumberger. They are founded by 2 brothers actually in France last time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So as an entrepreneur myself, I'm quite interested how these companies came about and all that. So maybe like currently you are a mechanical engineer. So where do you see yourself, like up the ladder and all that?
Okay, for I think MNCs in general, when someone wants to go up the ladder, sometimes it can be a bit difficult. So let's say, for example, for MNCs, I'm not entirely sure how smaller companies work. For MNCs, the higher ladder is already taken, the higher level is already taken up. It's very hard for you to go up that level. But that does not mean when you are at that lower level means you are a bad engineer. No, this is a case where you could be a senior engineer in that role and you could be paid really, really well. So, but just a matter of your level is you cannot go up because of that. There's someone there. So yeah, the thing is, I hope. Maybe another one. I hope to be able to work overseas again, but overseas opportunities. Because like what I said earlier, I mean, we cannot put ourselves to just work in Singapore, right? Because I mean, the world is so big and there's opportunities everywhere, and I hope to be able to go again overseas to work. Maybe one of the things maybe is become to be an instructor or something, because when I was in Abu Dhabi, there were instructors that were engineers, excellent engineers, really excellent engineers. They were one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. But they were really, really good, and I wish to be able to reach that kind of level someday to teach. Because I mean, I really do like teaching, so maybe that's something that I want to pursue and achieve. I don't know.
Inshallah. Okay. So there's one question that came in. They are asking, because you mentioned programming just now.
Yes.
Programming yourself. So they are asking with advancement in technology, are there any particular skill or course to upgrade ourselves to be more relevant in the industry?
In oil and gas.
Example, design thinking or machine learning.
Machine learning won't be machine. Okay, to be honest, okay, specifically for as a mechanical engineer in Schlumberger, machine learning is not something that would be very applicable. That's how it is. But design thinking, that might be very applicable. It might be very, because sometimes, right, even though engineers, the thing is, right, once, especially engineers who have a lot of experience within a certain equipment, their mind is always thinking about in a certain way. Now, from what I remember when I did design thinking a long time ago, it's a case where sometimes you have to explore things out of the box. And then those kind of ideas can really help. Because sometimes when you want to do design work, design thinking, because there's a lot of answers out there to help you in design. And when senior engineers, sometimes they only think of a certain way. As a young engineer, when you come in, you can give them new ideas to help in design. And it can really help. Like for example, recently I've been giving more input because I was quite shy when I first came back to Singapore and trying to give input on about design. Right? So, but I mean, alhamdulillah, I've gotten the courage to voice out some of my concerns or some of my designs that I thought that, hey, maybe we should try this instead. And then usually it comes to, they were like, hey, oh yeah, well, why not we try this? Because sometimes engineers, the thing is, right, design thinking is there to help engineers to design in a manner in which don't think like just one straight way. There are so many ways they can address a certain problem. So that's the whole idea. So maybe that's something that they can actually take up.
So, yeah. Do you know where they can learn this design learning from? Like
if they're still in uni, I think there are some electives that you can take up that's related to it. But if they are not in uni, unfortunately, I have no idea. I mean, I haven't been in Singapore for a while, so I really, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah. But yeah, there's I think in uni there are. Actually, there's something in uni that maybe some graduates can really take advantage of. There's for example, in NTU, we have this student career center. Yeah, that's something that's actually a very good place to take advantage of, to get your resumes checked about what kind of things that certain industries are looking for. Because not all industries, they look for the same thing in your resume. Like for example, a job that I was applying for was looking for people who were easy to adapt. So I had overseas exchange programs, and then at the same time I can easily connect with people. So maybe that's why, alhamdulillah, I got a job. So I'm guessing that was it. But different industries require different things. So to take advantage of this kind of and like SCCs, like these career centers, right, to help you mold your resume to fit what the company is looking for. That is something that's very good and it's very important, because sometimes you have too many things in your resume, it becomes like someone who just vomited out all his achievements. But I think there's only I read somewhere before, sometimes hiring managers only take 30 seconds to look at your resume. So that is 30 seconds very important. Just clean up resume. If you don't know how to clean up resume, go to these kind of locations. They will help me, because they helped me as well, and alhamdulillah, they really helped me a lot. Yeah.
So you went to the career center after you came back from your exchange program in Korea, and
yeah. So that was before I graduated. So I went there about 2 years or 2 years ago. Before I applied for my job with Schlumberger actually. So yeah, that was I thought I had my resume okay, well, my resume like good not bad I thought confirm can lah. I mean it should be okay lah. It's not too bad. But then when I went there, and then they give some criticism about the how my resume should look like for certain industries and whatnot. And there were a lot of changes to my resume. And then there were some things that were unnecessary, and they told me this is unnecessary unless you want to talk about it for your interview, for example. So this kind of criticism is actually very good, especially when it's part of you're really paying it for school to school, right?
Yes,
so might as well just take advantage of it.
Right.
But, yeah, it's because I think some students, they think like, oh, it's not that important. I mean, it's just a career center. They might not know, and that kind of thing. No, they know. Take advantage of it. They know better than you. So go ahead and seek their help. That kind of thing. So I highly encourage, if there are any graduates who are joining in right now, go ahead, because they can really help, really help.
Very good advice. Someone now the students are doing online, so they are quite short change, and so they must make full use of their money.
Yeah, must make full use.
Okay, so are you open? Okay, so the audience are asking whether you are open to get in touch with them after the live. So if they want to get in touch with you, are you open? You're open, huh?
Yeah, sure. If they wish to get in touch with me, just through my Facebook. Yeah, I'm usually there for the memes. Like, I mean.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So don't forget. Okay. So to the audience, don't forget to subscribe. Okay, because normally we see views, but we don't see subscription. So click. Don't forget to subscribe and click like on this video. Okay. So yeah, actually I want to go to your. Okay. Before we end, I'm quite intrigued and to see the quote, because your quote is different from the rest because you took a verse from the Quran. Okay, Surah Ibrahim, chapter 14, verse 7. Yeah, so yeah, do you want to share how you relate to this verse and why you choose this verse for your quote?
I think for me personally, I think it's a very well balanced verse.
Maybe like, before that you can read the verse, Kali, because you are interested in Tajweed.
No. I very shy to recite in public. But in general, because the thing is, if anyone were to see the translation of the verse, it's actually very well balanced. If you are grateful, then you'll be given more. Just by the promise by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, right? But then if you are ungrateful, then the punishment is right. So it's a very well balanced verse. So the thing is, if you are grateful, inshallah, you'll be given more and more. So when I was in Colombia, this verse actually really resonated with me. Every time when I felt down, and there were many times when I felt down, like I was so depressed, I cried so many times. I'm not ashamed to say I really cried so many times. But I always try to remind myself about this verse, and a lot of things that I really try to remind myself about. I was given this opportunity to go overseas, to learn about other cultures. And at the same time, it wasn't a case where I was just working. At the same time, it was actually a case where most of them was the first time they met Muslims. So it was like a form of da'wah at the point time. But it was I had to tell myself that, if I were not grateful for this opportunity, it's something that I will be taken to task on the day of judgment. So I have to be grateful. And only then will things be easier for me. Only then will I be blessed with small things. So I have to be grateful. And it's a bit difficult at times when you're really tested. So I was really tested overseas. I think people closer to me knew how hard it was for me at times. But it was a case where I had to get my mind straight and just be, count my blessings. If I were to count my blessings as a comparison to things that I wasn't like things that I thought was unfair to me, that the blessings is a lot more, and so I should be a grateful servant. Yeah. So that's how.
I see. Okay, thanks for the explanation. Okay, so any last words before we end? Any last advice or anything that you can give to the audience since they took their time off for the Sunday?
I think for those young, those who are still in university or those who are about to graduate or just graduated, now is a very difficult time for all of us. And I can only imagine how hard it is for you guys, because of some of you have already graduated. Maybe some of you have plans to get married. Maybe you want to, but then there's no job, or then you cannot save money for it. And the fault is not yours at all. But just right now, make lots of dua, do your best. At the end of the day, right, your rizki is not in your hands. So you just do your best and just hope for the best. Really, make lots and lots of dua. If your parents are still with you, then ask them to make dua for you. If they are not, then ask whoever that was taking care of you to make dua for you. So inshallah, everything will be okay. So these are the things, I guess, my last advices are.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. That's good. Alhamdulillah. So I think today we can wrap today's session. Alhamdulillah, I think we got a lot of takeaways from Brother Dzafir. Okay, so yeah, so look forward for the next video from us, the next live session. Okay, so that's all. Okay, thank you, Brother Dzafir, again for spending your Sunday with us. Okay, jazakallah khair.
You're welcome.
Yeah, assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. You're off already, right?